Hey guys, several years ago, I published a video called A Christian Reflects on the Bhagavad Gita, way back when it looked like I was running a tech channel. The video took off and became by far my highest watched video. So I guess at this stage in my career, I'm most well known as the guy who read the Gita. But I don't really know how I feel about that. But a lot of people commented, mostly with friendly pushback, so I figured we could lean into this a little more as I follow up and comment on these comments. Comments were diverse, as always, but probably the most common response I got from others was that I didn't use a commentary, I didn't study under a teacher, and it showed. Part of what I wanted to do here was just give a raw, honest impression, not on how other people tell me to think about the Gita, but just my own experience reading it. And what you saw was my honest experience and impression unglued from what anyone else has to say about it. Now, I recognize that I made some mistakes, but let me at least clear the air a bit. I know that the Gita is not a textbook for how to sleep at night after you fight a war, okay? I should have made that more clear when I summarized some of the book's outline. A lot of you also pointed out that the Gita doesn't teach that we should sort of numb ourselves and become emotionless zombies or whatever. I really didn't intend to go that far, but maybe I did, and in hindsight, I can certainly see how that would come across. I know words like desire, passion, and attachment are not exact to the original Sanskrit language. I knew that going into the video, but if these words are anywhere close to their English counterparts, then I remain concerned. I can't help but think of Vail Karuth's story. She was a former teacher of transcendental meditation, which comes from a breed of Hinduism. She studied TM under its founder, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Hopefully I'm getting these names close enough. So very, very deep in that general Eastern mindset thinking. Vail became a Christian and wrote a book called Authentic Enlightenment, telling her story. In chapter 5, she said this: most of the TM teachers and checkers all spoke with the same lilting voice as Maharishi did. What's more, they all seemed to be in a very strange space, as if in a time warp with their brains on hold. I'm not trying to be unkind, it just seemed that way. Unfortunately, the strangeness seemed to be catching. One day, while I was at a clothing store purchasing a blouse, I was having difficulty carrying on a normal conversation with the sales lady. I attributed this to my feeling that I was becoming a very special, highly evolved person, and that it didn't seem worth my effort to try to relate to anyone on such a low level of consciousness. So, for better or for worse, this is the image going on in my head when I read the Gita talking about how we must shed these things which really seem to be a part of what it is to thrive as humans. And I know Vail's story is not everyone's, but her experience makes sense given what I've seen when people go very deep in this thinking, given what I understand about Eastern mindset teachings, and given my reading of the Gita. That's what I grieve about. That seems so detached from our design as humans. It seems so lonely, depressing, and I think of how much more affirming Christianity is to our true human nature, to relate in a healthy way with God and each other, to enjoy God's creation around us with all the senses He gave us. That sounds so different from, say, Gita 1838. So yeah, some things I should have said better, but also some things I should have known better. Like when I also offered a critique of the Gita, that's where it would have been really good to spend more time with the commentaries to make sure I was getting the Gita right. So I made a mistake. And part of the reason was I thought about the Gita similar to how I read the Bible. Again, a mistake. But maybe if you can enter into my world for a minute, as Christians, we have excellent and helpful commentaries of the Bible. We use them. We encourage others to use them. But we also believe the Bible can be understood sufficiently by just reading it, with our natural human way of reading things. In fact, most commentaries of the Bible do not reveal anything deeply different from what you would pick up on your own. It just clarifies issues, maybe adds some nuance to the underlying Greek or Hebrew language, provides some cultural context, and so forth. Because for us, the Bible isn't just written by God, it's written well by God, and no translation is perfect, but most of them are good enough, and most of them are pretty close to each other in terms of meaning. Yes, Christians misunderstand and disagree about a lot of stuff in the Bible, but my study of the top seminaries and denominations out there revealed that our disagreement mostly lies in the less important parts. I'll leave that video in the comments if you're so interested. But this also brings up a very interesting conversation. The core and central piece of Christianity is marvelously simple. Jesus is God and King. He died for our sins. Trust in him. There you go. Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven belongs to children. So even children can figure this out. But within Hinduism and other Eastern mindset thinking, at least in the comments, I'm being told that I basically have no access to one of their most beloved books unless I read commentaries or study under a guru. Obviously, I don't expect to catch all the nuances of the Sanskrit language, but can I at least catch enough to get a sense of what it's trying to say? So many comments in the video were not just saying I missed an important nuance. They were implying that I completely missed it, and it's because I didn't engage with a proper teacher or a proper translation. I guess I'm just perplexed how followers of the Gita think about the Gita. It seems like an insult to say that the Gita needs a teacher, as if it is unable to communicate what it is really trying to say, and we need help from other people who do a better job communicating this stuff. So maybe these comments went too far. Maybe I'm reading too much into those comments. Maybe the real issue was the translation I used. Some people said that. I don't know. But then you also have some people saying that the concept of the Gita in Eastern mindset teachings cannot be understood unless you spend years, even multiple lifetimes of learning until you can reach that higher level of consciousness and attain enlightenment. If that's what people are expecting of me, then I'm going to push back. Normally, not always, but normally, when a teaching takes a long time to wrap our heads around, it's because the teaching isn't true, and it's just hard to convince yourself to believe something which is so obviously false. To make matters worse, the whole system of Eastern mindset is often defended by saying we must let go of rational, logical thinking. Not always, but often. Sometimes I get the impression that it's a virtue to let go of your rationality and ponder these koans of Zen Buddhism, for instance. People are attracted to this. It's almost like, I don't know, spiritually sexy? And yes, it's probably the most vulgar word you'll ever hear me say. My point is that just as I should have been more careful with the Gita, I hope you're being careful too. We can't let ourselves be deceived into falsehood by abandoning our wonderful human ability to think critically about ideas. That goes for both me as a Christian and anyone else. If an idea insists that you shouldn't think critically about it, then maybe it's because the idea is just trying to survive, and it's in deep, deep trouble if you do start thinking critically about it. Okay, I've said enough. Let's pick up on a few more of my responses to those comments in the next release. Hope that helps. Hope I didn't create even more mess than what I started with. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.